And we're live. Welcome back to the Challenge Insiders on Reality Pop. We're talking about the Challenge All Stars, episode 3, and I've got the lovely Chantel Francis with me again here today. Chantel, how are you?
I'm always great when I'm talking about these OGs. I don't know what it is, but I just enjoy watching the show. I always have full smiles. Like, it's just so enjoyable. So I'm happy to talk about it today with you.
100%. You know what? I've been loving this season as well, and maybe we'll be a little bit more loosey-goosey with the format and what we're talking about around the actual episode as well. This episode. One of the things I wanted to discuss is, and we can't help but compare it sometimes to the actual show. That's just going to happen. There's going to be some comparisons. I just feel like they've put a lot more creative juices into this season. Like we get this elimination at the end, we get the pepper thrown in there to throw them off from actually doing it, and the elimination on its own, just being in that structure where they have to.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. That's all right.
It's like into my apartment.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe you want to go check that out for a second, and I'll just continue. I'll continue to talk, and you can go and have a look at that if you want. So basically, we get into this episode. Are you right on that side?
Gone, but I think they went to the wrong floor because I live on the top floor of a house. And so I think that they meant to go to the middle floor, but they went all the way to the top.
Yeah, okay. So they didn't actually get into your house. I'm assuming you lock your door on that side.
I do lock my doors, but I think I when I left it open only because I took the garbage out. And so I think I didn't lock the door because I saw it actually move. Oh my God, that was just such a weird feeling.
Yeah, I immediately could tell something was going on, and it's weird because in New Zealand, like we almost never lock our doors over here because people,
really?
It's such a safe country in general. Yeah, but definitely coming from South Africa originally, the country where I was born and lived in for like 18 years of my life, like everything you always locked, all your doors. You've got burglar bars on the windows, like you just never can be too safe. And obviously, I don't know what it's like in Canada, but the bigger the country, sometimes crime's a bit more out of control. Like New Zealand's quite a small country with only like 4.5 million, 5 million people. I feel like we've got that under control for now. Hopefully it stays that way. But if you want to go check that out, 100% you can do that.
The people that live underneath me are kind of frat. And so I think that they probably had their people come in. They're like, oh, just come up to the second floor. But they probably went up to the third floor. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's what I think. 100%. Third movement downstairs. Oh my God, it was just it's just really upsetting. I'm fine though. You guys saw it live. This is live TV, unedited. You see real things as they happen. So I think everything's good. I feel like it's just a mistake on which floor that they went to.
Okay. Well, if you at any time have to pop away, I fully understand. We'll continue to go here. One of the things I wanted to say, so just to touch back on the challenge, is that I really love what they're doing with the eliminations. The elimination would have been really cool without the peppers, but putting that peppers in there adds that extra element as well. And this season of the challenge, we've seen the whole brawl 3 times. We've seen certain things being used over and over again. I just really love what they're doing with this All-Star season, and I love the fact that they're bringing in new fresh challenges and eliminations that we may have not seen in a while coming into the show.
Well, I have to say that it's kind of more in alignment with how things used to be. It used to be a little bit more homegrown type challenges. And, TJ's always loved the gross food stuff. He always loves trippy. These are the things that TJ really likes and gets excited about. So I think that he's probably having some we should give him a hot pepper or something. I think that he might even be involved with torturing his old friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Now, Chantel, it's been a tough week for me seeing these guys go up against each other because obviously if we're going back here to the draft that we've got, we had both of my guys, Teck and Maya, going up against each other in this draft here. So I am going to lose by the end of this episode, Teck, and he's going to move into the eliminated bracket over there. So it gives you the advantage at this stage. It does look like your old school knowledge is coming into play so far. One of the things I did note, though, Chantel, is that for the 3rd week in a row, Nehemiah is the #1 power ranking on USA Today for the players that are playing. What has been your opinion of Nehemiah so far? I thought he had a really good episode.
Well, I mean, you can tell that he has had to change his strategy, and from what we've known of him up until now, in the middle of the episode, he has a conversation with Jemmy, and he talks about like, "Oh, I'm not really a political player. I'm not really a social player like that." And so, him linking up with Jemmy, who is very strategic and is very social, and is always has her eye on how she's going to maneuver through the game. I think that it's going to do really well for him, because what he was lacking before was the political side. He was always like, just like, I don't care, I'm gonna go in, or like he wasn't trying to get to the end and win. He was just kind of playing a completely different game. And so the fact that he's willing to listen to Jemmy, I think it's going to do really well from him, because he was always good physically, he just wasn't good politically.
100%. You know what the thing is that with Jimmy and Nehemiah's relationship at this point, what I kind of look at it is almost like Jimmy is the mad scientist, the professor that's creating this Frankenstein monster, because, you've got Nehemiah there. He's like got all the physical attributes. He's a beast, but he never had that social game. And she's like sort of the puppeteer that's sort of working him through this game. And I feel like these two together are going to be a very, very big threat this season, because if you put, Gemma used to have a weakness in the physical side. She does look like she could be one of the more physically, I won't say she's the most physically fit, but I think that she's probably up there now compared to what she was. She's definitely in the best shape she's ever been. And she's now linking up with Nehemiah, who physically is very strong. And she's very smart about creating this alliance with Nehemiah very early on in the season, because obviously she's knowing that at some stage there might be pairs. Like it might be that the final, there's going to be certain parts of the final that might even be run in pairs. And she's trying to get the best guy here, or what she perceives to be the best guy, and probably the one that she can manipulate the easiest on her side as well in this season.
Well, and also even with the lifesaver twist being in play, the fact that he is probably, physically the most reliable guy it's on the show right now, he is likely to win the lifesaver. And so if she's in a predicament where she's being thrown in by the house, he could potentially save her there too. So I think it's like 2 times she's kind of looking out for her best interest here, with potentially going into eliminations, and maybe he'll be able to save her with the lifesaver. And also if they have to do any paired teams for the paired challenges for the dailies or the final, he would be somebody great for her to run with.
Yes, 100%. Now, the other 2 players here that we'll just quickly touch on as well that are in the top 3 for USA Today is Anissa at number 2 and then Elton at number 3. I'm even more shocked by Elton being number 3, to be honest, than I am with Anissa, because Anissa is always going to be involved in the political game. She clearly already, you can see she's got some strong bonds there. And Ruthie, throughout this episode, we see that rift between Ruthie and Anissa that was sort of formed in an earlier season between the 2 of them. And I feel like in this case, Ruthie is kind of on the outside of that bigger group, and I kind of am fearful for Ruthie and sort of what her way is going to be forward now that Teck is out of the game, because Teck seems to be that person that really grounded her, and she had that great relationship with Teck as well. And now she potentially has Arissa, but Arissa doesn't come across as being the most physical person either. So I feel like Ruthie is in some danger territory here at the moment.
Yeah, no, I agree that she could potentially be in dangerous territory. That's the thing with Ruthie. Like, she talks about like, oh, like, I'm not going to be quiet. Like, I'm definitely going to come back at you. And so she hasn't really learned to kind of maneuver the political game, because she should be making friends with Anissa, especially because Anissa has so much like social capital in this challenge. And so that's what she should be doing. But I think she's still really hurt by how things went down on the last season that they were on together. Janae is decent socially. So with Janae wanting to take care of her and help her, it's potential she has a little bit of cushioning, but she could be a pretty easy scapegoat for a lot of people being thrown in there just because she doesn't have the friends.
Yeah, and the problem for me at the moment is that I agree with you. Janae definitely is good socially, but I kind of feel like she's a non-player at this stage, and it's probably because of the edit, because she just doesn't seem to be in on any of those conversations when Anissa is talking to the rest of the OG girls that she's got around her. I don't know how much her political power is in this season. I think, like, going into the season, I thought her and Jemma would work pretty closely together, but we haven't really seen those interactions. I'm very mindful of who do we see currently interacting. So you've got, at the moment, you've got Jemma and obviously Nehemiah. That is one big alliance that's starting to form. You've got Cyrus and also talking to Beth, and then Beth talks about the fact that she's got a really good relationship with Jimmy and that she's the Madonna to her Britney Spears. You know, she's potentially her long-lost daughter. So I'd love to see more of that on the screen. I still feel a bit fearful, and I could be completely off on my read here because it does bring a little bit of doubt of what I said the previous episode, but I kind of wonder, like, how loyal will Jimmy and Nehemiah be to that Cyrus and Beth side of the alliance, because we only get it one-sided. All of these episodes, it's always been one-sided, Beth or Cyrus, more Beth than anything else, saying that she's got it in with Nehemiah and Jimmy.
So I think, like I was talking about this as well, is that we don't get to see as much as we do in the regular season. The regular seasons are generally an hour and a half. These ones are about an hour or less than an hour. And the previous challenges, like up until they used to be like 22 minutes. Like they used to be super short episodes. So it seems as though they only focus really on what's important for that particular episode. And they're not setting up things as they kind of do with the current challenge season. So I think that's why we might not be seeing some of this other sides of things, because they basically just have been focusing on important storyline to this episode. We learned a little bit about Ruthie, and that's because her best friend Teck is going to be out of the game. We learned a little bit about Nehemiah and Jemmy and Beth and Cyrus because Nehemiah is going to be going into the challenge. So I think that's why we're not necessarily having more information being given to us, is because they're not telling that story yet.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. And obviously with this here as well, we get Teck going out to the lake there with Big Easy, and he goes to take a bit of a skinny dip. Great character moment there. Great throwback to what he did in Real World Hawaii, I believe, with Ruthie back in the day as well. And also we had the start of the episode with both Ruthie and him jumping into the pool, which I thought was quite funny. And I'm sure that would have brought some memories back for people that watched the original season.
100%. That was what they did when they first got to the Real World Hawaii house. Like, I believe that they were the first two roommates that entered, and they met all their new roommates, like the other 5 people that were coming in, and they're all naked in the pool. So that was their introduction to all their other roommates that season. It was funny, and it was like, oh my god! I remember being like, like that.
I love that friendship, and I'm sad that I don't get to see more of it, because obviously I didn't watch the original seasons, but I might have to go back specifically to see the Teck, because throughout this whole episode, Teck didn't go down in my books. He continued to stay really high because of the fact that he seems to be a great character. He seems to be someone that can't be controlled, like he's gonna live his own life. He's gonna do it by his way. And he gives great confessionals. When he eats that pepper and he says I'm as hot as July. For me, being in the southern hemisphere, July is pretty cold. But I could put 2 and 2 together that's in the middle of your summer over there.
Yes. No, I mean, Teck is always a great personality to have in the house. And you can tell that by, the rest of the cast, they wanted to keep him there. They didn't really want him to go up against Nehemiah. He throws himself into that elimination, and people were like, wait, no, Jemmy's like, let people throw you in there. Like, don't just keep that away from people. Don't make it easy for anyone. But I think that also people didn't want to have to say his name because they like him and they wanted him to stay in the house. And so I kind of wish that they were able to convince Miss Kendall to use that lifesaver, because I would have liked to see Big Easy, who would be the most likely the replacement, go in there, and B, I would love to see Teck stay in the house. So I wouldn't have minded if that had happened.
Yeah, I think that some of the things that are quite interesting here is that, he puts himself out there. He says, I'm going to go in. I know I'm going to go in any case. Darrell comes to the screen and he says that, this is one of the most legendary moves that have ever been made. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're just having it up for the screen. Clearly, this is not like a legendary move to put yourself down there to go against Nehemiah, who's probably one of the most fit. Maybe it's because he respects the fact that Teck is happy to go up against someone like Nehemiah, who's probably physically in the top 3 of all the people that are currently playing this game.
Well, think about it, though. I mean, I agree it didn't come across as that super, super duper legendary, but it is a legendary move. Look at Fessy in the regular season pulling out his little note to read to say that he's such a legend, could go down there and defend his skull. They were like, it's going to be legendary. You're going to do it. Yeah, people are going to be talking about this move. And so when people throw themselves down there, it's usually when they would be safe otherwise, that's when it's considered legendary. And usually it becomes legendary when they win. But if you remember, did you see when Jordan did that? When he's like, I'm going in, and he slaps down all the X's or whatever. And like,
Yes.
that was a move. Like, that was legendary. And he didn't even win that. Spoiler alert, guys, sorry. But like, he didn't even win that elimination. But like, the fact that he was like, I'm going down, I'm throwing myself in, like, that's kind of what the move is. I don't actually know. I saw that you had messaged that, Justin, on another channel or in the comments, and I was trying to think for you where you could do it. I don't actually know.
Yeah, I will say that sometimes if you look out there and you go onto Reddit, they might point you in the right direction. Especially there's some Facebook groups and things like that that sometimes has like links for you to be able to watch it. We're both watching it via Paramount at the moment, so just from the source, which is probably obviously, if you can do it that way, it's always the best way to go. Yeah, I wanted to say that with Jordan, I do see it a little bit differently because Jordan went up against Bananas from memory, and Bananas is like one of the best to ever play the game, right? Now, not taking anything away here from Nehemiah, because I've been really impressed with Nehemiah this season so far. In my opinion, I understand why he's the front runner. The problem is, will he be able to win out until the end? Because if he becomes that number one target, will they continue to target him? I don't know. I think that with Jimmy, he's probably safe and he's probably going to play the game really well. I did like Jimmy's game in this episode where, she was going to Nehemiah, she was going to Kendall, and she was trying to work, like you said, that Big Easy angle to try and get Big Easy to go into the elimination against Nehemiah, because from her point, it makes 100% sense, right? If Big Easy is at the end and she has to partner with him, or she's got a partner at any time with him, as a duo, as a girl, it's probably not a great move because he's shown that he's got certain strengths, but there's a lot of weaknesses as well. So I think Nehemiah beats Big Easy in most cases. I don't know how it would go in a puzzle type of scenario. I do think that this specific elimination, definitely Nehemiah would have beaten Big Easy, because I don't think Big Easy would have been able to hold his body weight up at the top to try and hit those tiles out. And I do think that it might have been a tough one if it was a whole brawl, because that's Big Easy's strength, right, is the physical power side. Not that Nehemiah is pretty strong, but one of the things I want to continue to reiterate here, and I think we spoke about it in the previous episode, is that when it comes to something like a whole brawl, weight matters. If you're like an extra X amount of pounds more than the other guy, it's gonna matter.
Absolutely, but like, that's why I'm saying that what is happening is different than what was happening in the past. So before, it was just regular people that were on this TV show that were coming on the Real World Road Rules Challenge, and so they weren't these huge physical athletes that were like, ex-football players. Like, they weren't those people. They were just regular Joes that were fans of the show. And so I do think that they may have to change that, because before it was like anybody that you're going up against, and like your size didn't actually matter because it had to do with the heart and maybe your experience being on the show. And so I agree that since it seems to be it's been attracting all these huge super athletes, and they're going to be going against people that are not super athletes. I think it's actually could be very dangerous for them to be continuing having these poorly matched hall brawls and like pole wrestling and stuff like that, where people's weight classes, Jay shouldn't be getting concussions from, an elimination round. Like, that doesn't, to me, that doesn't it's not fun. So I hope that they take that into consideration, because I don't really like somebody being like, oh, I just want to get them in there and put my hands on them because they're like, 100 pounds heavier than them,
I don't want to see someone die in one of these challenges. That's the key thing. And it is actually, I know people might look at this or listen to this and say, oh, these guys are being over dramatic. Like, listen, it is really, really bad. Like, the show has changed. We do need to rethink the whole strategy. And I do know why they're bringing these guys on, because in this week I read something about the ratings having gone up by something like 160% nearly from what it was previous seasons in the last 2 seasons. So clearly a lot of people are watching it because of these other shows that are coming in. But let's adapt it slightly, or let's not do the same thing over and over again. Now, further on in this episode, we get the first challenge coming up, and it's a throwback to what we saw in Battle of the X's, or Battle of the Sexes 2, and it's these massive ice blocks with the shields of different seasons in the middle of it, and they've got to thaw this with their body. A lot of crazy things happens in this challenge to try and thaw. Probably the most crazy part was Darrell in the middle of the challenge, just taking a leak on it and using body fluids to try and melt this ice block. Hey, if you've got to go, you've got to go, you know. And I guess he's been with these guys for so long. There's no, you know, he's not afraid to show it.
No shame. I'm sure there's no shame whatsoever. Like, they've definitely, people have peed on a lot of things on the challenge. I think, did Ashley pee on something? But I don't know. There's definitely been a lot of blocks that have
she has
thawed out, where people have used their bodily fluids to thaw it out a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that, unless it went terribly wrong, I don't think that the producers expected them to be able to thaw it out. I think they really wanted the like porno scene montage of these people trying for a couple hours and then be like, okay, now we can give them the hammer. Because they gave them the hammer. Did you want them to give them a hammer?
Yeah, I did. I think that, you know, at the end of the day, I think it wouldn't have made for good TV if we were to look at this or watch this go off the whole time and they couldn't get through it, because, you know, to me, it was going to take forever. I think that they did it long enough where they got the scenes they wanted. People did some crazy things. The best part is Jimmy, you know, talking about Mark Long and Beth both being on this ice block and saying, you know, Beth's like my mother, Mark's like my dad. So it feels like I've walked in on this scene with my mom and my dad, and it's imprinted in my head and I didn't want to see it. And I think we all can relate to that.
Absolutely. Like, it was on the after show, Jemmy was talking about how you couldn't hear it, but Beth was being really raunchy and actually was making sound effects that would be even more disturbing if you thought of her as your mom and your dad. So yeah, poor Jemmy.
Well, can you blame Beth? You know, you hear Nehemiah say here that this is probably the most action some of these married people have seen in years, and it's also the reason I don't have a ring. You know, I don't want to be married, so I don't have to worry about that.
You have like big ice blocks like around your apartment or something.
No big ice blocks around here, you know, to keep it exciting. But another scene that was really funny is seeing Kellyanne. Like, clearly Kellyanne was throwing herself at it, and it did bring back memories of Rivals 3 when she was with Jamie, and they had that pole that they had to grind or something, and she was really getting into that as well. Just great scenes, and Kellyanne does everything at 120%.
Well, she was on the after show as well, and she was talking about how she was just trying to get the boniest parts of her body to try to, like, you know, make a dent of some sort. And so she was using her butt, like her tail, like one of the bones on her, I guess, hip bone. And then she's like, I used my elbow, I was using my collarbone, and she's like, yeah, she's just trying to use anything that was a hard surface that she could just like maybe make a dent into the ice.
Well, you can make anything look sexual with the right music and the right commentary. So I think that, you know, with so I feel like that's what the producers did very well in this episode. Now, the team here ultimately that, you know, is going to lose is Nehemiah, Katie, and Big Easy. Have I missed someone there? Nehemiah, Katie, Big Easy, and
Jemmy.
Yeah. No, Jemmy. Was Jemmy in that? I don't think she was in the Nehemiah team.
Sorry. I thought you were saying the winning team. The original.
Sorry. So the losing team would be Nehemiah's team here. And, you know, with Nehemiah's team losing this challenge, he was the captain. You know, Teck pops off and he starts talking a lot of crap here and saying, you know, your house is burning down. How does it feel? And Nehemiah just goes into absolute beast mode. The look that he gives Teck when Teck starts coming at him, I was like, oh shit, you've just woken up a lion here, and Nehemiah's going to come for your head. I would not mess with Nehemiah with that look on his face.
That's just like any of these elimination style reality shows, is like people are just looking for a reason to throw you in and call you in without feeling bad about it. And so I think that Nehemiah always wanted to go against Teck because he did feel physically probably stronger than him and felt that he could beat him in most things. But then, so like when Teck pops off, he's like, oh yes, I can call him in because everybody loves him and I don't want people to be mad at me for throwing him in. But like if he's popping off to me, like, I'm going there to defend myself here. Like, I'm not taking that. So I think it was very convenient that Teck was acting that way, but I think he also wanted to go against him. And I think it was the best circumstances to be able to call him down, or, you know.
The last time I saw that look in someone's eyes in the show, it was Turbo versus Jordan. And, you know, Turbo just giving, I'm going to absolutely take your head. I really felt like in that moment, like Nehemiah says later on, is that, you know, he came into the season and he's trying to play a different game. He's not trying to play with his emotions this time around. So he doesn't want to make an emotional decision to go against Teck. But definitely, like you said, it does play in his favor because, you know, coming into the season, there's a reason that all of us picked Teck as late into our draft as we could. We didn't think that Teck was going to be that challenge beast at the end of it. I know sort of we're jumping all over the place, but I do want to give Teck some props in regards to his actual performance on the elimination, because he was within centimeters diving for that ring, at the end there to get there. It was actually a close challenge. Nehemiah by no means just blew him out of the water here.
Yeah, I mean, I think he definitely had a good showing. I think the fact that he's tall was probably helpful, and he's light, so that he's also able to hold the monkey bars and hold up his body weight decently easily. And he was able to handle the hot peppers a lot better than some other people would have been able to. Like, I could be wrong, but I don't think that Big Easy would have been able to get out of like the heat of those hot peppers to be able to do that challenge. Like, I think that it would have been a slaughter if it was Big Easy. I do think that Teck, he has enough stamina and skinny enough, and he could just probably just jump up and pop the top tiles there. So yeah, Nehemiah definitely didn't blow him out of the water, but I think that it's because he's skinny and he's kind of strong and he can handle those peppers.
Yeah, and I mean, I was impressed. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing Teck come back for another season down the road if we do have another All-Star season. And I think that TJ also gave him a lot of respect there at the end, And I think one of the things that was really funny in the elimination part was where after they eat the peppers, TJ asked them, "Are you guys okay?" And Teck just gives him the bird immediately, and he said he's never had that response before. But you can see TJ just respects it so much that Teck is being real in that moment.
Well, and this is the thing, this is what we used to love about TJ. He used to be kind of buds and friends with these people and like making jokes and laughing, and like he doesn't seem to have that all the time with newer seasons. Like, he's kind of separate from everybody, but you can see he's more involved here. He's happy, he's having a good time, and that's how I always remembered TJ. And so I need to go back and look to see where was the change with TJ being a lot more serious, because he used to be a lot more chill and laughing and even engaging and hanging out with them a lot more.
Do you think that TJ maybe doesn't have enough of a say in who plays the game in the current seasons of the challenge? And obviously he'll have some sort of a vote as being one of the executive producers, right? But maybe there's a little bit. I think he's one of the executive producers on the show. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on it.
Go on.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, like, do you think that maybe that's got to do with a little bit of the fact that he doesn't connect as well with some of these players, potentially because we know that there's some absolute douchebags playing the game at the moment that probably it's really hard to relate to them,
There are definitely a lot of douchebags. That's actually something Anissa was saying in the after show. She's like, I'm just so much more at home in the OG season because like in the regular season, I'm just playing with a lot of douchebags. Is basically what she said. And that's what I'm missing. I was missing the camaraderie and the friendship and the people growing up together. And I miss that. And that's probably why I'm always have a smile on my face. No matter what happens on the episode, I'm just like, oh, there's my guys. There's my people. I miss you guys.
So what did you think of Arissa's scene here in the middle of the challenge when they are thawing the ice and she goes and prays to the above to help her in this challenge? And Teck says, he fully appreciates where she's coming from. Sometimes you've got to get in the zone. You've got to do what you got to do. But at the moment, you need to bring some water to the ice. I thought it was just a brilliant character moment again. And we get a lot of these snippets. And definitely, I think that there's some great friendships here. I feel like even though we didn't see Arissa and Teck communicate that directly with each other, and it's more them both communicating via Ruthie, there clearly is a bit of a friendship there as well.
I think it's, anybody that's from the way in the past, they kind of were probably in the circuit together doing any like publicity things for MTV in the early 2000s. Like they're probably in that zone. Teck was doing a few real TV, like real movies he was in. And, so he was getting a lot of buzz around that time as well. And I told you already to watch the original Real World Las Vegas season. So you'll get to understand though her personality back then. And like, she was part of probably one of the most iconic seasons of the Real World, and they got so much publicity and fame out of it. So I think that they just grew up in the beginning of the reality TV phenomenon, and they experienced that all together in their early 20s. So I think they have that to share.
Now, Kelly Ann in this section as well, while they're doing the challenge, is saying that Elton is looking all kinds of hot. And obviously she knows that he's got a family now, so she can't be thirsting over him like she is on the show. And I love it because at the end of the day, no matter how old we get, we're still just kids inwardly, and we're still, who we were 20 years ago or 10 years ago, Probably me not 20 years ago, because I would have been back in high school. But
I wish, though, that I heard that Kahada was supposed to be on the OG season as well. And so they dated.
Oh.
That would have been very interesting to see what would happen there. I don't know why they stopped really or what happened. So it'd be kind of interesting to see that dynamic.
I always got the sense with Kohara, like the seasons that I saw of him on the challenge, that he was he came across as this nice guy, but I felt like he was really not someone that wanted to commit. Like, he would get girls to like him, date him for a little bit, then move on to the next one. Because I know him and Nani had a little brief stint as well, and that's kind of what the impression I got from him.
Side of things, so Nani definitely is very flirty and has had many challenge flings. So
I know that as well. Yeah,
Nani could have been the one that dictated the lifespan of that relationship. But I don't remember that about Kahara. I feel like he really loved Kellyanne. I felt that Kellyanne might have been too wild for him at the time.
I didn't see their relationship, so you could be 100% right. I only saw him later on in the show. It could have been interesting.
Pardon me?
Sorry, I was going to say it could have been interesting. Definitely, I would have been there for it, and I do like Kohara. I think that he's a really nice guy, and he would have brought a different element as well. He could have brought maybe a little bit more than Ace in this season, because Ace went out pretty quickly. But maybe it just at the end of the day, the chips didn't fall the way that it could have for Ace, and he was unfortunate enough to be in first. Maybe things would have been different if he was there a little bit longer. So I might be a little bit harsh on him here. Ace, if you ever do listen to this, I doubt you will. Nothing personal here. It's just what we saw on the TV. Now, moving on, we do get the silver team winning this, and it's Cyrus, Darrell, Kendall, and Kellyanne. And we learned that the Darrell has done a lot of studying coming into the season. So, Chantal, that's a point for you, because you said that these guys have been studying. That's why they're so good at these challenges. I just, the naive young boy that I am, thought that these guys are coming in here and they have all the knowledge. But Darrell clearly said, I knew that this was going to come up. I studied for it, and I was ready to go.
And on the after show, he says the joke of the house was that every morning when he went to the washroom, he would take his notes in with him to study every morning on the throne. So he definitely put his studying in, and they tested him on the after show, and he still had it. He still remembered the order of all the season. So yes, told you, studying. You got to study.
Good on him. Yeah, I love it. Darrell could easily be forgiven to be one of those people that comes into one of these shows thinking, I've got the physical attributes. I am who I am. I'm a legend in the show. I've won it the most of anybody coming back to play the show. I don't need to do this. I'm good enough. But he does. This shows to me that he's serious about this season, and he does want to go all the way, and he does want to win. And I'm still low-key nervous about the fact that I don't have him in my draft pick, and that you got to steal him as soon as we had to choose Mike's draft people here, because I do think that, Darrell, you can't read into much about him not being very active on the show at this stage, because every season that I've ever seen him in, he's not very vocal in the beginning, and his sort of persona and who he is comes more to the front at the end. And we see a lot here with obviously Kendall being the person that wins the safety or the lifesaver, as they call it, and her going to the party, talking to a lot of people, definitely getting on the wines, a little bit drunk talk here and there, getting a bit loud. But she says that Darrell has told her to remain calm, don't make a noise this early in the game. That's clearly a Darrell 101 strategy, and try and get as far as you can. But Kendall is a little bit, on the wine, and she just wants to have fun. Girls just want to have fun here.
Well, I think she just likes the idea of having power, especially since her life was in the game was on the line in the previous episode. So I think that she's just like, I'm safe, and I can make somebody else safe. I think she just is enjoying people having to talk to her, and they're talking about not her going in and her going out, but talking to her because, hey, she could be used for their strategy. So I think she was just enjoying the power of it all. I still think she should have used it. I'm of the same mind of Jemmy. Jemmy was talking. I keep on talking about the actor show, but I just watched it, so it's stuck in my head.
Talk about it. I haven't watched it, but you can go ahead. It'll be good to know.
So she was talking about the fact that if she were to have the lifesaver, she would have 100% used it, because at that point she didn't care necessarily who stayed, Nehemiah or Teck going or staying, whatever. She didn't care about the other guys that would be going down. And so she's just like, whatever, let's see what happens. Like, let's see if I get to have the choice of using it or who's going to be going to replace them. So I would have used it if it were me, because it's the beginning of the season. I don't have super tight bonds or loyalties to anybody. And we want to know what we're dealing with this lifesaver. Like, we want to know if we do want to use it or not. And so it would have been the least risky time to be able to see what happens if it were used.
Interesting. Now, for me, I feel like she should have used it. Maybe I wouldn't have thought like she needed to use it prior to the party phase. Like, if you, from the start, were very clear with your intentions not to use it, I think that puts you in a better place with the guys. But the problem with this is that she came to the store, she had the gun out trying to rob the cashier, but she didn't pull the trigger, and she ended up walking out. But the CCTV camera caught her while she was in there, so she's going to jail in any case. Right, so people know she's been caught red-handed as trying to, even considering the fact that she might use it, but she doesn't go ahead and do it. And I always say, if you're gonna make a move and people see the move coming, you better finish it. And she didn't do that. So I feel like it's bad news for her moving forward. I think Darrell's okay because of his connections, but I don't think Darrell is going to be able to keep Kendall safe for too long. And I do get a little bit of a vibe that Kendall might be one of those people that is going to end up going into eliminations quite often. But I also feel like she's one of those people that might win quite a lot of them and still win her way to the end. I actually do think she's low-key a bit of a beast this season and someone to watch out for. And she's your number 3 pick. I think you're number 2 girl pick. So a little bit of nervous times there for you.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't sure how she was going to perform. She only was playing on one season, but she was pretty good on that season. I did like, though, at the beginning of this episode, you could see like Latarian was kind of like giving her props, and you see Mark doing his, holding up her champion arm. So I do think that she has gained a little bit of respect from some people. And so I don't know if she's going to be the layup that everybody's going to be wanting to throw in there, because she could beat a lot of these women at a lot of things. And so I think that that's going to protect her. The first episode, I think people believed that her head wasn't in the game, that she didn't care to be there, that she was maybe going to throw it or like not like try very hard. And so I think that that's why they threw her in. But then she showed them that, like, hey, I have the stamina. I actually have enough heart to get through this and win and stay. And so I think it also gave her the fire that she needs to maybe continue on and do a little bit better. Nobody's going to care if she goes, but I don't think that people are going to be willing to put their game on the line to see whether or not they can take her out.
I've said it many a times on the show, like, momentum counts for something. When you start winning some challenges and you start getting that confidence that you could be good enough, and I mean, she won the daily here with Darrell today as well. There's some winning habits that are kicking in for Kendall, and I do think she's someone to watch out for, and I do also think she's going to be entertaining to watch later on. Where I see Kendall potentially going in is like against someone like a Kellyanne. Like, if you want to throw her in, then you throw her in against the other girl there that you think is probably going to be a challenge going to the end game. So maybe that's something to look out for in the future. Now, another thing I wanted to touch on here is prior to the party phase, we get, or actually straight after the party phase, a lot of people are a little bit drunk. They're going to bed. We get Nehemiah and Jamie both climbing into the same bed. And Jamie said that she knows how men think inside the challenge house, and if she needs to do a bit of politicking, she's going to do it, I know the terms. I know the terms. But anyway, she's going to do it. And it's funny because she says, a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do. It's some hard work having to lie here next to Nehemiah. What a bad-looking guy, right?
Well, and he also said the same thing, too. It's like, you're going off to war. You might want to come back to a nice, soft woman. It's, they both know what's kind of going on there. I think that they like each other, but they also like the company of each other. And Jemmy knows that if you kind of can wrap a man like that, he's most likely going to be willing to work with you moving forward, especially since he doesn't have his own political game. So she's locking that in how she knows how.
Yeah, but listen, I'm actually thinking that the producers must be thinking, wow, we struck gold bringing these two back into the game, because I think that when people first heard that the cast was out there and they heard Jemmy is coming back as an all-star with the OGs and Nehemiah's coming back as an OG with the all-stars, and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't necessarily think that those two people would be like seen as, wow, they're really these OG All-Stars coming back. So I'm sure that they may have been some controversy in actually them playing in this season, but I feel like they're giving us everything that we want to see in a show, right? You need this. Like, how boring would the season have been at this stage without both Nehemiah and Jimmy in the season?
I mean, I'm sure there's other things that are going on that we're not seeing. But yes, I mean, they definitely struck gold, but that's kind of what's been great about the OG season is that there's always a lot of gold that's being struck. And so like, Trishelle and that huge fight with Katie, like we like gold, like there's always some good stuff happening. So I think that's what was going on before. People that were going on the Real World, like most of them were kind of they were pop-off queens, or like, they didn't like certain types of people, or, they put people that were going to be dynamic on their own, but then put them all in the house together where they had to live and get along. And so generally the people from the Real World and Road Rules are going to be unique characters. And that's also what I'm feeling is like different from the current season, is that like, the new people that they're bringing in are not necessarily the best characters. Not all of them. Like some of them are interesting, but like they're kind of boring. But the OGs, they're all really interesting on their own, standalone.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with you there. I don't feel like there's really any weak links in this cast so far. I've really enjoyed every single one of these people in the show. Now, Jemme, we're going to continue to talk to her about her, because I do feel like Jemme and Nehemiah as a pair was probably the MVP pair in this episode, because all the strategy and everything that was happening around them this episode, which makes sense because Nehemiah was going into the elimination. But Jimmy here, when they go to nominations and Teck volunteers himself to go in, and he says, listen, let's not mess around here, let's go and have some food, let's go party, let's go just enjoy it, it's not a funeral. She says, I really hate it when somebody throws themselves into the elimination, because she wanted to see where people's cards are. She wanted to see how people were going to vote.
Yeah.
And I feel for her here.
Well, absolutely, because, in Survivor, you kind of aren't necessarily knowing what's going on in the game and where you stand until you go to Tribal Council. It's like that's where everything is. It comes to a head like, okay, my alliance, they're with me. Like we're voting the same. Their word is good. Like you learn a lot about going into Tribal Council, and I take these nomination ceremonies, I guess we can call it, or deliberations. You take that and you can learn a lot of information. And so I think it's just like a wasted nomination ceremony that she didn't get to learn any new information. And so that, like, for somebody that's trying to maneuver themselves strategically, it's like a waste of a week, that's like a waste of a challenge. She didn't get to learn anything new. She didn't get to see like, oh, who's going to be putting their neck out for so-and-so, and oh, who is going to protect this person, and who's going to say that person, like, oh, there's a rift there. Like she didn't get to take anything in that she could use later. So yeah, I'd be pissed too. Like, I want to know, 100%. I want to know what you're going to say.
Yeah, I really feel like she's got her head in the game this season. Like, I mean, I remember previous seasons seeing her play, and obviously maybe I'm a little bit, influenced by the fact that she's on my draft and she was my number 2 girl pick here for the season. Just saying, but I really want her to do well this season, and I'm really finding myself rooting for Nehemiah and Jimmy. They seem to be a really likable power couple at this stage, and what I also want to say is that, we see here with Teck, just prior to going into the elimination, he has a bit of a conversation with his roommates, Cyrus and Gisela, and they talk about the fact that they don't want another roommate in there. Gisela says she doesn't want to see somebody else naked in there, so clearly he's been naked in his room as well, just the free spirit. And we get Anissa coming into the room saying she's going to be wearing some booty shorts here to motivate him at the elimination to come back into the game.
I mean, I love that. And Gisela was like, well, I would totally do it, but I think she got all bruised up from the ice challenge. And so, yeah, that's it's the lightness, even the club scene that they had, like everybody seems to be having more of a fun time. They're actually smiling. They're actually dancing. It's not just B-roll footage of them doing things that the producers asked them to do so they can get a shot. So I think that the lightheartedness and the familiarity that everybody has with one another, even if they haven't played together in years, they still just kind of go back into like the motions of that they were in with them like 10, 15, 20 years ago. So it's just a character building for the unit of them, the old schoolers. Obviously loved it.
You know what? I identified the most with Arissa in the party scene. Like everybody's having a good time, everyone's dancing and clubbing, and she's just there sleeping on the table. Like, I identify with her because, like, I'm at that point now where, I very rarely go out clubbing anymore. Like, I prefer to just hang out at people's houses, having barbecues. I'm more low key now. Maybe I'm a bit of an old soul. I don't know. But I identified with Arissa, and it was such a funny scene.
I mean, I definitely do not identify with Marissa. Wait, what's your sign?
Sorry?
What's your astrological sign?
I'm a Gemini.
Wait, Geminis are super social.
I am super social, but it's just, I feel like this whole pandemic life that we've had for the last year and a bit has made me just gravitate towards, just rather than having a small group of friends around, having a barbecue at the house, having some low-key drinks, and just being in my circle. I can't remember the last time and again, obviously for other countries and people listening to this, they'll be like, oh yeah, it's just normal. We can't go out and party over in the States at the moment because everything's locked down. New Zealand's not really been locked down all that often, and clubs are still open, but I just haven't really gone out and done it in the last year. It's been a little bit different. I'm sure I'll get back, and because I'm a Gemini, like you would notice, I do have split personality as well. So sometimes I like my downtime, and sometimes I like to go out and have fun. But I just loved the scene with Arissa just being out there saying, nah, not having any of it. I'm going to sleep. I'm going to do me. And it's just such a funny human moment that we see within the show here.
Well, it's definitely something that I don't think I've ever done. I always have been the last man standing. I just can't help it. It could be tequila or it just could be like FOMO. I don't want to miss out on any part of the party. I'll be dancing on the bar. I mean, I haven't done this in a long time now, but I was working as a flight attendant before lockdown, and you're on layovers, you're still going to be having a good time, we'll say. But I do agree, I love a good barbecue and hangout sessions. I do like being able to talk to people, but then I also like dancing.
That's it. I do love dance. I do love dancing as well. So that's the one thing I do miss. So, it does sound like if I ever do come to Canada, we'll definitely go out. We'll do some dancing. We'll go get some drinks and all that kind of stuff. It is on as soon as all of this stuff is done. Maybe I know you're not a fan of it, but I've always wanted to go to Canada to go watch the Rugby Sevens because they go around the world and they play in different venues. And they do have a Canada leg of that tournament as well. So maybe down the line when things settle down again, I'll go over to Canada to watch one of the games.
Well, and I used to work for the Wolfpack. So that was the original rugby team in Canada, and it's only been there for the last 3 years. So I used to work the beer gardens every season. I used to hang out with the players all the time, and I've only seen like half a game, but like we got rugby, so I can get you free season tickets to that for sure.
I don't want to go too far off topic here and lose everybody, but I actually went to school with one of the players of Canada, one of the most capped players of Canada. So he's from South Africa originally, DTH from the Vandermeer. So he's from. Yeah, I'll send you a link afterwards. We don't want to bore the rest of the people here. But yeah, so going back to the show and, looking at the elimination itself, we get these two guys going up against each other. You've got Nehemiah ultimately winning this elimination. And then Nehemiah say that, he feels like this puts him one step closer to being a legend. So I like the fact that he's very self-aware. And again, I could be completely wrong here, but it just seems like there's some bigger names than him that came back for the show. And he wants to be up there with them. And he says that legends aren't made overnight and that you have to earn it. Mm-hmm. This is what we're missing in the actual show when people like Fessy comes up and they say, I'm a legend. I'm the best to ever done it. I'm going to disrespect an OG legend like CT because I'm so great. At least Nehemiah understands there's a process to becoming a legend, right?
Absolutely. It's not you could become a legend. It could happen if you, in the right set of circumstances, take out the top dog. If it happens, it could be legendary, but it just depends on everything that happened before. Like you can't, it's not an automatic thing. If you take out the top dog that you're automatically going to be the legend. And so I'm happy that he understands that it's a process. It's like, okay, I've won several things in a row. I think it's also the political game and having people want you to be there and championing for you and being called back and invited. Like that's legendary status. It's people identifying with you in the audience and they want to see you succeed and they want to see you take down someone or they want to see you get beat. Like all these things is what makes people legendary. And so I am happy that he recognizes that because some people, as you mentioned, like Fessy, doesn't seem to get it. They don't get it. He gets it. And so that means that he could be a legend in the making.
You see, I think Fessy is the person that everybody got because they hated on Paulie so much. So they thought, hey, if you guys don't like Paulie that much, we'll take him out of the Big Brother equation and we'll give you Fessy to just really ram it down your throats. Because now I think people are looking at Paulie and saying, can't we just have him back rather than Fessy?
We said on Wednesday, we're just like, I think we want Paulie back, please.
Well, because it's such a bad situation, because now if you don't have Paulie, you don't have Kara. And I understand people are like 50-50. I personally still like Kara, and I understand like what happened. There was some bad stuff in some of those seasons, but I feel like that was a process of so many challenges just weighing on her, and her having all this baggage of having lived on this show for so long. I do think that, we're really missing out by not having a physical female athlete of that caliber. And if you get Natalie at some point coming back from Survivor, who's going to take her on? Like, a lot of these girls were lucky that she ended up, going home early this season, because I think she would have been a runaway train this season. I mean, obviously everybody's got weaknesses, but we know from Survivor she's good at puzzles as well. So it's not just like she's this physical athlete.
I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Laurel come back. Laurel wouldn't be afraid of going against Casey or any of the other girls there. Even Rachel coming back would be a little bit scary. So I would. So there's other OG girls other than Cara Maria that could do some damage in the current season. But I feel now though that they might come back to the OG season. I think it's the length of time, the commitment is what is deterring some of these previous challenge castmates.
100%. A lot of them have got things going on. Like I said, Leroy, maybe future All-Stars potential, because it's only 2 weeks. So maybe he can commit to that. I want to see Leroy back at some stage. I don't think he'll do it anytime soon. So we would have to hope for the All-Stars seasons to continue for a while. But I do feel like there's a lot of hype around All-Stars at the moment. And there's a lot of hype around Paramount Plus doing this. So I do feel like there's a good chance we will see a second season. We'll only know more as we continue to go on here. I do want to say, looking at the table at the moment, let's have a quick look at the table of players that are still currently in the game. Who do you think here is currently at danger for the girls' elimination? For me personally, my opinion is that it's both Ruthie and Arissa. I feel like the edit this episode, and like you said, maybe they're not editing the show in advance to show who's going to be in danger next episode, but I do feel like Ruthie being on the outside, Arissa being one of the few players that she gets along with, that's a potential danger there. The only thing that I will say as well is that if Ruthie somehow does end up landing in that spot, they're probably going to put her in against someone that can take her out if they really want her out of the game, opposed to an Arissa. It's obviously going to depend on who comes in last in the challenge. So people that wouldn't say Ruthie would be maybe Janae. I don't know about the other girls though. We haven't really heard what Jemmy would do or what Kellyanne, but definitely Anissa would pick Ruthie. I don't think that Arissa would pick Ruthie. I don't think so. But everybody else is so much of a beast. But I do think those two are most likely in the hot seat. Jonae and Jemmy, they're roommates, I believe, and so they're pretty tight. So I think Jonae is pretty safe unless she's last. But maybe it could be Beth. So maybe the fact that maybe it's gonna be like a Beth versus Jemmy type situation, like that. If they are doing any storytelling with each week building up, maybe the fact that like, oh, my daughter, my mother, Britney Spears, Madonna, like maybe them talking about that, it's going to be because they have to go against each other. So maybe that's something that's coming up too. But I do think that it's quite interesting. We kind of didn't talk to this point, but there's that conversation between Jimmy and Naomi that happens somewhere before they go into the actual elimination, where they say that timing is everything. And it's about striking at the right time. So it does feel like they're potentially, preempting a big move to happen here in the future against Big Easy there, because that was the person that they were thinking of targeting. And Naomi was saying Big Easy is one of those people that they want other people to take him out instead of them, because obviously Big Easy is an OG player. He's a true OG player, and he's got some real good connections there. So some of the old school players might not feel like they want to take him out directly, and they want Naomi to work against them. But one of the things I'm sort of interested in is, are we seeing a lot of Naomi and Jimmy at the moment because they're not going to have a big influence in the season later on, or are we seeing a lot of them because they will become the ultimate Big Brother alliance, of this season? The big power structure will be around them. I don't know, and that's kind of like you said, it could go either way here.
I actually don't think it's either. I really think that there's the storytelling that they're doing is just different than we're used to. It's more like they were in the past. Obviously I'll be able to tell a little bit more next week to see what they focus on, but it seems that they just are focusing on episode by episode what story needs to be told. I don't know if they're building it for the finale. I don't know. I could see it either way, obviously.
Now, Chantel, if you had to do your own personal power ranking, we know the power ranking for USA Today is at the moment now Maya, followed by Anissa at number 2, and then Elton at number 3. Who would you have in your personal power rankings at this point as number 1, 2, and 3 in the game?
Well, they haven't really proved who was on. Hold on, let's see who was on that winning team. That was the original winning team. Was the gold. So that's Mark, Elton, Beth, and Jemmy. Okay. Yep. And then Darrell's team was Cyrus, Kellyanne, Kendall, and Darrell. Okay, I think still, I would say Darrell and Elton. Like, I think they're still up there, but I don't know if it's just because I know them and like I remember them. I feel like Darrell, Elton, and Nehemiah are kind of like all top 3 if we're talking about the guys. And for the women, I think Anissa's in there. I think it would be Kellyanne, Anissa, and Jemmy's doing some work. Like Jemmy's knows her stuff this season. I would give those 3, like, because we have Anissa already winning a challenge last week. I'm sure she would have done pretty decently with this particular week's challenge, but like they didn't get the plaques out fast enough. Yeah, that's what I'll stick with that. So those 3, yeah.
I agree with you. I think for me personally, now Maya being the number 1 sort of power ranking person at the moment makes sense based on what we've seen on the show up until this point. So I would have them that high as well. Other players that, for me, I think is just they're hiding. They're in the bushes. They're in the snake in the long grass at the moment. Is probably Darrell. I think you could just never sleep on Darrell. And then the other person, I've got to be there for my boy Derek. I've just got to stay there. Like Derek is seen doing work throughout this episode as well. He's more than willing to be the waiter that goes and takes the wine over to Kendall while she's partying and her thanking him for it. He knows what he's doing. He's learned a thing or two in this time on the challenge. One of the really great things that happened on this episode was as well, when they were getting ready for the challenge, was Anissa saying, we've got this challenge mania brain here, which I thought was a very cheeky and clever shout out to Derek's podcast there, because obviously they can't talk directly about this stuff on the show. So really, really funny stuff. For the ladies, I think that, Anissa definitely is up there as someone that's already won a challenge. I just haven't seen anything from Kellyanne, but I know she's a beast and she was my number 1. So I'm going to keep her there. It's not based on what I've seen on the episode, but I'll keep her somewhere there in the top 3. It's a little bit harder to have a 1, 2, and 3 when it comes to the ladies. And then the other lady in there at the moment, she's not playing the best social or strategic game, but you've got to respect the fact that she just won an elimination, and she seems to still be someone that is going to be difficult for them to take out as Kendall. That's the other person that I probably would still put up there as someone to watch out for. Now, Chantel, is there any final thoughts, any questions or things that I didn't touch on that you wanted to bring up?
Who knows? I don't know. I mean, we talked about a lot. One thing that I am loving, we didn't mention, is the music. Is kind of the music that they're bringing. It's a completely different vibe than the current season. And it just takes you back to, the olden days where partying was good and fun. So I definitely have been noticing that they have had a pretty damn good playlist going on.
Yeah, the challenge is always really good at bringing the right music for the right situation, the right theme of the season, and definitely in this case, like you said, some golden oldie music here, some great OG 1990s, early 2000s music that you're hearing pop up, and I love it as well. And I won't lie, I've gone to Spotify and I've gone and searched a few of those, and maybe have put them back into my favorites lists as well, because the way things are these days, there's so many music, songs that come out every year that who can remember what came out 3 years ago, to be honest. But great music.
Definitely great music. What else? Anything else I need to say? I couldn't find whether or not TJ was a producer or not. I was looking on IMDb, and there's over 200 producers of the show. So I will find out for next week to see if TJ has any creative input, especially into the OG season, because it just seems more TJ friendly.
100%. Whatever they're doing this season, if there's a different arrangement to the amount of power that TJ's got to this season, or anything, just give TJ more power in the future. I think it's a good idea because if TJ's having fun, we as viewers are having fun. I love overall the creativity of this season. I love the fact that we're seeing fresh new challenges. I love the fact that we're seeing different eliminations from what we've seen, because I do feel like this last season they have been, and maybe.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Sorry, like Hall Brawl, was it twice for the women and twice for the men? Like, come on. Yeah. Or is it 3 times for the men? Like, I don't even know. This is like too many Hall Brawls. Who cares?
Well, it was twice for the men because Fessy was in both of them. And it was once for the actually twice for the ladies as well. So we've seen it like 4 times already because Amber B did it twice as well. By the way, I know completely different show, but just before we finish here, Amber B, like, man, oh man, she's going up in my rankings at the moment as a player that I really enjoy seeing. And probably the only Big Brother player at the moment that you kind of, I mean, I felt bad for Casey, but, like she's kind of getting dragged down by Fessy. But Amber B, just, someone that, I'm sad to hear she's not in the running for the next season. I think that
she's now going to be on next season. I believe people that weren't that originally were considered have been released. So as far as I know, that Amber B will be on the next season of the Challenge 37.
Amazing. Okay, I know we shouldn't be talking too much about that, and we're teasing you guys because both myself and Chantel, I've got a lot of opinions because I haven't been able to talk about this whole season on any podcast. Chantel does have her own podcast on Reality Realness, where she has been talking about a lot of the challenge episodes for this season, and we're planning to do a challenge podcast for the next season on here as well, and we're going to do like a recap of the current challenge season, of the whole season, myself and Chantel, and maybe a guest person there as well. It does sound like we maybe be able to get a challenger to come on the show, hopefully, to talk to us about that as well. But we'll have more information about that in the near future for you guys. We're looking forward to talking about that. Chantel, anything else from your end?
I think we're good. We're coming in right at 1 hour. I think that's a perfect time to say goodnight. So I'm good.
Yeah, 100%. Now, guys, if you've jumped in here late, thank you for watching. If you really like what we're doing here, I hope we've earned your subscription today. Subscribe to the channel. It is absolutely free. Hit the notification bell to get notified if we do this in the near future. And there's plenty more challenge content to come. So we're really excited about it. Until next time, guys, goodbye.